Hello everyone, welcome to the Microsoft Certification Series. This is Lakshit Pant from Azure Developer Community, and we have started this initiative Microsoft Certification Series. And today is the day 3 of Microsoft Azure Bootcamp, where we are covering the AZ-900. It's the Microsoft Azure Fundamentals, where we are covering the syllabus offered by Microsoft Azure only. So you can just get started with your journey with the Microsoft Azure. So now today we have again our expert speaker, Ms. Bhargavi ma'am here, who is Microsoft certified trainer. So we'll walk you through with the syllabus of Microsoft Azure. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Lakshit. Without taking much time, let's start with today's session. Let me share my screen. Okay. Till yesterday, we saw one, two, three, and four modules, and now we are left with the module five and six, which is identity governance, privacy, and compliance. And also, we will be covering on the authentications that are available in Azure for today. And quickly getting started. Hope my screen is visible, right? Hello.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible. Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. Yeah. Today's module will cover these following concepts, like it will be covering the Azure identity services, which will be having the authentication versus authorization. Also, we will be seeing on the Azure AD, and then we will be seeing on the MFA, SSO, and the conditional accesses. Also, we will be covering on the Azure governance feature, which is RBAC, resource logs and tags, policy, blueprint and CAF, Azure privacy and compliance, inside which we will be seeing the privacy statement and the online service terms. Also, we will be seeing on the trust center and the compliance documentation, and then we will be covering on the Azure sovereign region as well. And apart from these, we will be seeing on few demos which were left for the last session, like Azure Vault. So we will be covering those as well in this session. And moving on, as we all know, the difference between the authorization and the authentication, it goes the same with Azure as well. The authentication is something like which identifies the person or service sequencing access to a resource. Whereas when it comes for a authorization, it determines an authenticated person's or service level of access, and it would be requesting a legitimate access credential, and then in it happens for a basic for creating the security identity and access control principle when an authorization when an authentication. And when it comes for authorization, what happens is it will be defining which data they can access and what they can do with the what data they can do with that. And as the image stays here, whenever a person plus identity will be equal to an authentication. Whereas when um, when when an identity plus some kind of the access that it needs will not be, when something does not have an access, then he will not be allowed to um, enter into the cloud, or he will not be authorized at all. So that's the difference between the authorization and the authentication. And when it comes for Azure multi-factor authentication, what happens is, which is commonly called as MFA, it is an additional security for your identities by requiring two or more elements for full authentication. It is something like you will be you you will be entering your email, and then you will be entering your password as well. And post that, you would also get an code that needs to be generated, and those has to be configured inside your system, and that has to be entered whenever you log in. Like when you log in, you will be set to enter the code inside your mobile, or tap in the number that what is being showed there. So those all steps comes under the multi-factor authentication, which is MFA. And you will be doing a separate kind of installation, whether in mobile or in the system itself, and you will be authenticating it. And when it comes for Azure Active Directory, it is called as Azure AAD, um, Azure AD, or commonly called as AAD. And it is also a Microsoft Azure's cloud-based identity and access management service. And here, what we would be doing is we would be doing the authentication, like what you would be doing on the single sign on, right? Whenever you give a single sign on, it all goes under the Azure AD, wherein you will be entering the password based on the based on your Windows. And with a single sign on, you will be able to access the entire resources that are available to you and make it useful. So those all comes under the single sorry those all comes under the Azure Active Directory. And then we also have the application management. um, this is basically used for the application management and the device management. And when it comes for business to business interaction or business to customer identity services, this will be very much useful. And then when it comes for a conditional access, what happens is it is used by the Azure Active Directory, and which is used to bring the signals together to make decisions and enforce organizational policies. And here, what will happen is the user or group membership will be used. Also, we will be having the IP location and device. Application risk deduction will also be in place, and which will be used to have the conditional access, which are being done by the Azure Active Directory, and we will be able to get the access based on that. Like what we see here, we will be having a user and a location which has been mentioned here. Like we will be having the IP location, right? So those all things will get into the cloud authentication. And then we will be checked if it requires access, or whether it requires MFA, or whether it's a blocked access or not, based on the every attempt that it wants to. And if everything goes well, if it's a allowed access, then it would be allowed to access the apps and data. So it will be helping you out with the data risk detection that it happens inside the malware or something, right? So it would be helping you out with the data. And when it comes for the Azure governance methodology, what we would be seeing is mostly on the role based access control. And then we will also be seeing on the resource logs, tags, what is meant by the Azure policy, blueprint, and cloud adoption framework for Azure. And out of which we will see first on the RBAC, which is role based access control. What does role based access control is all about is a fine grinded access management. It will be used to segregate the duties within the team, and it will be granting the access to the user that what they want to perform for. Also, it will be enabling the access to the Azure portal, and it would also make you secure from controlling the access to the resources from the user what they are meant to be. Like if you are a admin, then you will be having um, some kind of access to be um, to the resources, and if you are a employee, then you would be having some kind of access to the portal, right? So all those things will be maintained based on the role that the person wants, and those all things will be maintained based on the role based access control. And like it um, like the like the images mentioned here, we will be having the Azure Active Directory, and inside which we would be having the Azure subscription and user groups, apps, and user. And below which, if for some person it would be for resource group, few resource group, and for some person it would be like only the apps that they want to have, and for some it would be just a user group that they want. So it all depends on the way that the access is being given based on their roles. Also, when it comes for a resource lock, what happens is, when you are sharing the resources between many person, there may be a chance that your your resource is being deleted or modified accidentally, right? It happens even in the file that what you are sharing in the what you are sharing inside the shared drive as well. So to avoid those kind of situation, what Azure has given as an option is that it is resource lock. So inside which there are few things like cannot delete. If it meant to be a cannot delete, you will be able to read it, and you will be able to update it as well, and you will not be able to delete it alone. But if you give it as read only, then you will be able to just give it as read only. You will not be able to update it as well, and you will not be able to delete it as well. So these kind of the logs will help you in modifying or getting deleted accidentally. This is the main thing that all the resources will be having uh, inside it, and we have to enable it whenever we need. And what happens is, we will also be seeing the tags that are there for all the resources. Like what is meant by tags? Tags is something like it provides the metadata for your Azure services, and then it also logically organizes resources into a taxonomy. It will be having a name value pair, and then it is very useful for rolling up billing information. What will happen when you give a tag is like, it will be in the name value pair, like it's mentioned here, cost center marketing, which means that when you put in the billing information, or when you set up some kind of uh, bill information, that what you want to get alert for, you will be getting a you will be able to filter it out easily based on the keyword, whether it is a marketing or whether it is of cost center, with all these terms, with the resources that what you have actually created for. And you have to it's your choice to give the tags that is being mentioned here with the name and value. So with the value that what you have actually created, you will be able to set the alert easily and get the billing information um, very easy for you, making it very useful for the billing purpose to be very easy. So tag actually plays that role. And when it comes for Azure policy, what happens is it would be enforcing the organizational standard and to access the compliance at scale. What it would be doing is like it would regulate the compliance, security, and cost management will also be taken care by the Azure policy. What it would be doing as a major thing is like it would be evaluating and identifying the Azure resources that does not comply with your Azure policies, and then it would also have a built-in policy and initiative definitions under the categories like storage, networking, compute, security center, and monitoring. And out of these, if something does not goes well, then what will happen is it would be stating you that it is beyond the policy that what we are actually looking for, and you have to make some, it would be also be giving you some kind of recommendations that what you can do, and with that it would make you secure with the standards that what it is actually expecting it for, and make it work for you. And post that, we have something called as Azure blueprints. What it would be doing is like it would be making the development teams to rapidly build and stand up new environments. Also, what it would be doing is like the development teams can quickly build trust through organizational compliance with a set of inbuilt components like networking, and it would also speed up the development and the delivery. And what we can do inside the blueprint is like where you will be able to control the role assignments, policy assignments. Also, you will be able to have the resource group, and the resource manager template will also be available inside the blueprint. So, the blueprint is kind of a blueprint that what we would be doing when we start a construction, right? So, it is a kind of the same thing that what is available for Azure as well. And when you start with the development, it would be making you build up the new environments and build make your development much easier. And when it comes for cloud adoption framework, what it would be doing is we will have few things in place like strategy, plan, ready, migrate, innovate, govern, manage. These all things comes under the Azure cloud adoption framework. And the one approach to cloud adoption in Azure will be a cloud adoption framework, and it would be a best practice from the Microsoft employees, partners, and the customers. Whatever the best practices that what we are receiving, we would be giving some kind of feedback, right? So all these will be collected together, and it would also be included inside the new updates that what they are giving from the employees, partners, and the customers, and they would be put into the place and make it work. And what it would have is like it would be having tools, guidance, and narratives for strategies and the outcomes that what they are actually expecting. What is meant by what does the strategy do here is like it would be defining the justification and the expected outcome that what they are actually doing. And plan is something like what is adoption plan to business outcomes, and ready is something like what you would be doing to make you prepare for the cloud environment. Migrate is something like what you would be doing for the modernizing of the existing workload. And innovating is something like when you want to develop a cloud native on or hybrid solutions, then that becomes the innovative. And govern is like um, when you want to govern all your environment and workloads, that becomes govern. And manage is something like operational management for cloud and the hybrid solutions that what you are actually expecting for. So it all It all comes under the cloud adoption framework, and these are being part of Azure cloud adoption Microsoft approach. And when it comes for privacy compliance and data protection, what we would be seeing is like what we would be seeing is like the tenets of security, policy, and compliance. Also, we would be seeing on the Microsoft privacy statement, online service terms, and then we would also be seeing on the data protection amendment, and then we would be seeing on the trust center, and then we would be seeing on the Azure compliance documentation. We would also be seeing on the Azure sovereign regions, which is where do you want to deploy your uh, your region, and based on the government rules like Azure China Cloud Services. And let's now go in deep of each one. Security, privacy, and compliance. When we go in deep of it, what does security mean here is like you will be you would have to secure by design, right? With the built-in intelligent security, Microsoft help you to protect against the cyber threat, which is by using the automation and by the artificial intelligence that is available for it. And when it comes for privacy, what we are getting is like the privacy of the organizations is being ensured through the contractual agreements that what we are signing up, and those are very transparent as well. And then when it comes for compliance, what happens is we do have to respect the local laws and regulations that the government provides, right? So those are also been part of the compliance law, that what it has been there, and it would be it would provide the comprehensive coverage of the compliance offering. And when it comes for compliance terms and requirement, the Microsoft actually provides most comprehensive set of compliance offering, that would be like that would include almost all the certifications and the attestations that what it has to do. And also it would have some compliance offering which would also include these things, like whether if it's a ISO, or whether it's a health insurance portability. And then we will also be having the criminal justice information services, or these are some kind of the complaints terms and requirements that are available in Microsoft for day. And when it comes for Microsoft privacy statement, what we would be getting is like it provides an openness and honesty about Microsoft, what what it is doing with the user data that is being collected from all the product and services that is being used under the cloud. And that is very transparent, and that is also been discussed under the privacy statement, that has been that what we have to actually sign up the data for. And Microsoft privacy statement will be including the data, which is what Microsoft actually process for, and how Microsoft process it, and what it is being used for. These all datas are being covered as part of the Microsoft privacy statement. And when it comes for online service terms and data protection addendum, what we would be doing is like what we would be seeing is this is a licensing term that would provide the terms and condition for the product and online services you purchase through the Microsoft volume licensing program. And when it comes for data protection addendum, the data protection addendum is commonly called as DPA. where it set forth the obligations with respect to the processing and security of the customer data and the personal data in connection with the online services that is being offered for. And when it comes for trust center, we would be having something called as trust center in almost all the things, right? What it means is like, how do we want to learn about the security, privacy, compliance, policies, or practices across the Microsoft's cloud product. These all things will be included under the Trust Center. And Trust Center website will be providing an in-depth expert information of all these things, and then it would also provide the role based information for business manager, and then it would be providing the privacy offer based on the rules and legal teams that what it has to actually look for. So trust center is some kind of the uh, trust center is like, where do you go for an expert information, right? So that is a trust center. And then when it comes for Azure compliance documentation, what we would be getting is like, it would be having a set of the compliance offerings that are needed for your organizational with the with all the specific requirements that national, regional, and industry specific requirements that it wants to do, and what it would be doing with the collection of the data that it is being getting for. And when those things are actually of four type, like global, US government, industry, and regional. So you can make it specify under these four terms, and make it work for you. And when it comes for Azure sovereign regions, what happens is you would be meeting and compliance need of US federal agencies, which is you would be stating, and um, you will be having the Azure government, right? So that Azure government will be split instance of the Azure, where you will be having the physically isolated non-US government deployments, which will also be accessible only to screened, authorized, and authorized personnel. So if you are not an authorized personnel, and if you don't come under the US government services, then you will not be allowed to enter inside the US government policies. Then you will be rejected for. And these are some kind of the compliance standard that is available inside the Azure sovereign regions, like FedRAMP, and then IRS 1075. And these are some of the um, Azure sovereign serv- services that are available here. And when it comes for region, when which is Azure China, what um, what is meant by this one is like, uh, it would be having the China's first foreign public cloud service provider in compliance with the government regulations. What it would be having is like physically separated instance of the Azure cloud services, which is operated by 21 via net. And, and all data within the Chinas are stored inside this region to ensure the compliance that the China has. Even when we look for some kind of the China data, right? So all the datas related to China will be stored only under the China region, and China has a specific rule that the data should not come out of China. So for those kind of stuff, Azure came up with a different solution, like Azure sovereign region, which is for Azure China, where you can store the data of the China within the China. And uh, this is all about the module 5. And now we are stepping into the last module, which is Azure pricing and the life cycle. And uh, post this, what post covering this session, what we would be seeing is like we would be seeing the demos on all these parts, and we would be uh, concluding the session for today. And when it comes for the last session, which is like what we would be doing, what we would be seeing here is like the identity factors that the that what cost can be get affected, whether it can be of resource group, services, location, or what kind of the data that what it actually looks for. And then it also identifies the factor that can reduce cost, like how you can reserve your instance, reserve capacity, hybrid, use benefit, and spot pricing. And what you can also see is like how do we use the pricing calculator and the total cost of ownership calculator. And we will also be seeing on the functionality and the usage of the Azure cost management. Now, let's go in deeper of each part. Let's see what factors are getting affected for cost. There are mainly six factors that affects cost, which is resource type, services, location, and bandwidth, reserved instance, Azure hybrid, use benefit. Out of which, let's start from the first one and let's see how it is getting affected. When it comes for resource type, how it is getting affected when it comes for a resource type is like the cost are resource specific. When when you are creating a resource that is that is of high cost, then it would obviously affect your meter for the billing month, and it would make you depend on the resource type. And when it comes for the service, what it would be doing is like it would provides the rate between rates, and the billing period can differ between the enterprise, web direct, CSP customers, right? So all the services that what you are actually opting for will also make your cost affect. And when it comes for location, like what we saw just before what we just before we entered the factors, right? So we saw something like we have to publish it inside the specific region, which is of Azure China or Azure US. So those kind of the location based products are also available, and that may actually vary your cost based on the distribution and the usage cost that is available for that particular location. And when it comes for bandwidth, some inbound data transfer are free, such as data going into Azure data center is free. For outbound data transfer, such as going out of the data center, the price varies based on the zone. So there lies the difference between the inbound data and the outbound data that is getting hit by the data centers. And when it comes for the reserve instances, what happens is like when you are buying to commit when you are committing to buy for 1 year or 3 year, then your reservation may vary, and based on the reservation your cost can reduce. And based on the pay as you go policy, it can reserve it can get reduced as well. So it all depends on how you plan for making the reduced uh, reduced cost and making it work for you, for your organization as well. And when it comes for Azure hybrid, what we would be seeing is like for customers with software assurance, Azure hybrid would always benefit because we will be having the on premises licenses on Azure at a lower cost. So these are the major six things that what we have to actually remember for when we are looking for a factors that are affecting cost. And when these are the things that what we have also actually have to look at the when the cloud is being set up, or when you opt for a resource, or when you are scaling up or doing some kind of elasticity that what you are doing inside your organization. On the day one you may have two peoples in your organization, and on day 10 it might be few more people who would be onboarding, and for whom you may have to give the access, or you may have to deserve based on the cost that what you are actually planning for, right? So it all depends on the organization that what you are actually working for and how you are planning for the cost. And then, when it comes for a pricing calculator, there is something called as a pricing calculator where you can see the estimate bill of the Azure products that what you are actually going to use, or what you are actually using it. Wherein you can just add the data, and you can check out the data that are going to give you the that are going to give you whatever the uh, value that what you will be actually getting, with the estimated value based on the tire region, billing options, support options, programs and offer, whether it's a Azure dev or test pricing. So it all depends on the price that what you are actually planning for, and it helps you reduce the cost with the pricing calculator. Whenever you are opting for a pricing calculator, it would actually make you plan things well ahead, and make you go with a good good plan for the next month, or how for the next billing cycle. So, we would be seeing an example of how to use the pricing calculator. And uh, what does the total cost of the ownership calculator mean here is like, it is a tool that would be that would estimate the cost savings that you can realize by migrating to Azure. What you can As you can see here in the image, there are things like, there 7% of the compute and 93% of the data center in the first one, and 2% of the networking, 4% of the storage, right? So it's the total cost that the on premise has. So if you are actually migrating this particular thing into Azure, what happens is this data center will be taken care by Azure, right? So it becomes total of 0%, and the networking will get increased, and the storage will also get increased. So it would be predicting you with the total cost when you migrate from the on premises to Azure. What it would be the value is what the total cost of ownership calculator will be doing it. So this is the first step that actually when you want to migrate to cloud for your organization basis, you would be looking for this calculator. And post this, what we would also be having is like Azure cost management. Azure cost management is like, where we would be getting the reports, which is billing reports, and we can have the data enrichment budgets on, set up the spend budget, and then alerting is also possible, and the recommendations for the cost can be managed here. And then There are few ways where you can actually minimize the cost. One is like performing the cost analysis using the Azure pricing and the TCO calculators. Second one is like monitoring, which is with Azure advisor. This actually makes recommendation for reducing the cost, like these many resources are not being used or these are not required. It would be giving you those kind of recommendation where you can actually monitor it. And then when it comes for use spending limits, used by a free trial customers and some credit based Azure subscriptions, which will actually make your cost reduce. And the same thing, like you will be using the Azure reservation and Azure hybrid benefit, which is hub, to make the reservations and hybrid benefit, so that we will be having the values uh, of whatever the reservation that what we have actually opted for the next year or the upcoming year. And we will be able to get the reduced cost based on the recommendation that what we have actually given reservation for. And we have to actually choose the location, low cost location, as much as possible. You can opt for locations which are nearer to you for better performance. But when it comes for minimizing cost, you have to choose the locations which are of low cost location. So there are possibilities like using the low cost regions as well. So we have to choose both the location and the regions to be at a low cost one. When you have to keep update, what you have to do is like you have to have the latest customer and the subscription offer, that what you are actually getting for. And the last is like, sorry, just a second.
Yeah, so
Sorry about it. Sorry about it. We are almost on the last slide that what we are actually looking for. Yeah. What we can here is where we actually left off. We can apply the tax like what we saw in the first slide of today's session, right? So that will be having the name and value pair, and that would actually identify the cost owner and make you identify the usage with the tax. So you can use all these things and make it minimize your cost and make it work for you. And post that, what we would be having is like SLA, which is service level agreements. The service level agreements describe the Microsoft's commitment for uptime and connectivity. SLA are based on the individual products and the services that are available, and the detailed agreements on the service provided and any expectation to the SLA. Free and preview services do not offer the SLA. This is because this is mostly available for the paid subscription and the services that are available in Azure. So this is one kind of the one kind of the Microsoft commitment that would make you work for uptime and connectivity and have all the products that are available to you on time. And this would be a best one when you are using a enterprise thing, or when you are going for a enterprise subscription. And when it comes for SLA for Azure product and services, like it is mentioned here, in the image, the SLA would be more than 99%, and the downtime per month will be very less, which is of minutes uh, or for more than the expected time. And the performance target are expressed as uptime and connectivity guarantees. Like if a service fails, then what happens is like it would be having a monthly service fees that can actually get credited. So when it comes for Azure preview program, what we can get here is like user can user can test user can test beta and other pre-release feature products, service, software, and region to provide feedback. What we would be having is like public preview and generally available. What does public preview will have is like all Azure customers can evaluate the new features, and in generally available is like whenever the public preview is completed, all the customer can use the feature, and region availability will get vary based on that. This would be available next to your subscription, and you can use the feature by clicking on the preview feature, and post that you will be able to use this Azure preview program. And yeah, from until here I stop and go back to the Azure portal. For first case, we would be seeing on the pricing, and then we would be going into the next steps. This is the Azure pricing calculator that is available, which is where you can get the pricing calculator by logging inside it, which is of my azure.microsoft.com pricing slash calculator. And when you come inside it, you can add, when you click on the particular thing, then that gets added, like it's mentioned here, right? Virtual machine added view. So whatever the resources that what you are actually expecting it for, like whether it can be bot services or cognitive service or the open data set that is available, then all these resources will actually get added for. And I do have actually created few things earlier. I'm not sure if it's already stored. Yeah. Azure bot services, when you have the SQL, when the tier varies, then you might have the premium channels based on the cost, right? So when it gives for free, then you will be giving on for the values that actually what you have to pay for. Since we don't have any since it is a free one, we are not going to pay for it, is what it means. And when you give the S1, it directly means that it would be mentioning the premium channels that what you are actually going to do based on the plan that what you have, and it would be calculating and let you know this would be the monthly cost that what you have actually going to pay. And when it comes for virtual machine, we added virtual machine, right? We have to choose based on the operating system, and based on the operating system the amount would vary. Like it is 354.78, right? And when we change that to Windows, let's see how it gets varied. Yeah, it gets 529.28, and based on the operating system, and then type like what you are going to actually use, and based on whether it is a standard or basic, or whether it's on the category high performance compute, or what kind of the instance that what you are actually expecting for. And these all things will be deciding on for your cost, and it would be giving on the value that your monthly cost can actually occur for. And you can play with it by changing the value, and can decide what you actually want to make your cost reduced if you want it for your organization, and make it work for you. And if something is not going right within the same month, then obviously you can change your Linux, or your database that what you are actually using, right? Since it is a cloud model, you it is not mandatory that if if you have bought that, then that means that you are going to use it. So you can change it at any time based on the amount that what you are actually going to do. And you can get into a trial for 1 month, and for the next month you can actually change it. And then it varies on the data that what we have actually added for. Like what we added these many things, and it is all getting displayed here. And when you don't want something, then what you can do here is like you can just delete it off based on the necessity. And it would be letting you know that um, and it would go off from the estimate that is available. So these are um, some kind of the scenarios where you can actually plan for your pricing and getting started with the uh, Azure resources that what you actually need for. Now, coming back, let's actually create a resource group. What we were actually seeing, right? So, we would create a resource group, and inside the resource group, what we can do is when you create a resource, and when you create some kind of when you give some kind of name to it, uh, when you give some kind of name to it based on the region that what you actually need for, and give a create on it, it would actually say whether your validation is passed or not. And if your validation is passed, just click on the create, and it would be creating a resource group for you. And when it creates a resource group for you, what it would be doing is like it would be saying that the the resource group is being created. You can click on to that, or you can just click on by this way. And once you click on to this, what you can actually do is like you can create resources inside to the resource group, and tag few things inside here as well. Like when you want to create the resources inside it, like the things of whatever the things that what you actually plan for, whether you whether you want to get some Ubuntu server, then you can click on it, and you can actually start using it for. And inside the resource group, you would be giving the resource group name, and selecting this particular resource group name, and you would be making it review plus create, so that the resource group will get added with the resources that are actually being created, whatever it is being created for, and will be shown here. And what you can actually also do is like whenever the resources are being created under the resource group, right? So you can also set the cost alert for the same. And since yeah, you can also set the budget for the same. And whenever that kind of the budget get increased, then it would be setting you an alert and will be sending you an email or kind of the thing that what you are actually planning for. So these all things can be done when you are using a resource group. And um, until now we saw like resource group, right? Let's see some kind of uh, example for key vault as well. Key vault is used for storing the passwords or keys, right? Like what we saw in yesterday's yesterday's session. So what we can actually do is like we can search for Azure Key Vault, and when we click on the Azure Key Vault, what we can do is like it's the same thing. Like if I want to give it under the Azure sample resource G, and I am giving a name like sample key. Yeah, I am giving a name to it. And how many days do you want to retain the walls? Meaning, how many days do you want to make it store for? So it depends on the it depends on for the uh, days that what you are actually giving here for. And what it would be doing after the 90, here we have mentioned 90 days, right? So what happens after the 90 days is like it would start purging the data. So it also depends on the way that what you are actually choosing for, whether it is a disable protection or whether it is a enable purge protection. So it all depends on the thing that you actually want to do for. I am now choosing a default one, and I'm creating a new review and create. And now now let's get back and see let it create now. Let's see, it is initializing the development. Let it complete. Now let's go back to the resource group and check whether this key vault will be get mapped under it or not. Now yeah, resource group is the same thing, right? So it would get mapped here when we create the resources there. Since it is in progress, it is not yet displayed. Okay, the deployment is now succeeded. So what we can actually do is like we can now go inside it, and now you can see the key vault that what we have actually created, right? So what we can do is we are just opening that. And um, Azure Vault, sorry, vault URI is something like what you would be using for the key that what you are actually expected to use. These are mainly used whenever you are using it when we are logging and supporting in it. There are three kind of steps where you can manage and manage the secrets, like whether it can be of enable logging and setting up alerts or recovery options, or for control access vault, out of which we will be seeing the logging part. And we will also be getting the values out of it. And when it comes for key value pair, one major thing that what we should also that what we should see is like the activity log, that what we are actually using it for. And the here we would be having the secrets that what we are going to have, like if you want to store some kind of the password, then what you can do here is like you can give the name, and you can give the activation date and set the expiration date and make it enabled or not. And with that, you can create the secret key here and make it possible to work for your make it possible to work for you. And then post that we will also be having the keys that are actually needed. Like we gave the secret key, but we did not we gave the secret, but we did not give the key for it. So the key will be stored here and the secret will be stored here. So this way, what you can do is post this, you can go into the logging, and you can make these secret and password with the help of the URL that is being mentioned here with the URI, and make it work for you. So this is all about the things that what we have sought till now. And uh, I guess I have covered almost all the things, and I would like to say thank you and stay in touch with me. And I am open for questions now, if there are any. This is my LinkedIn ID. You can get in touch with me and ask questions there as well. Okay. Hoping that there are no questions, or are there any questions in the comment section? Okay. If there are no questions, then we are good with it. And Lakshit, do you want to add any points to it? Are we good to close the call? Okay, if not, thanks for attending today's session, and thanks for Azure developer community to giving me this opportunity to having having a wonderful session ahead, and hoping for the next beautiful session that what we are actually looking for. And we do have multiple series that are actually going behind, and this is one boot camp that is occurring, right? And we do have multiple sessions that are happening, so please attend those sessions as well. And thank you all for the session that what we are currently having. Thank you.